Hello, my name is CrackTheSky. I'm an AMV editor, and you're watching What Makes It Great. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 4 of What Makes It Great, a video series where we take a look at a great AMV and then break it down and talk about what exactly it is that makes that video great. Today we're going to be looking at a video that is distinctly different from the the 3 that we've already looked at. This video it's called Journey to Find a Name. It's by an editor who goes by the name of Elcalavero. He is not a well-known editor by any stretch of the imagination. His videos do not get a lot of views. Frankly, I'm not entirely sure how I came across him. I think he may have posted on animemusicvideos.org at some point, and I just happened to see one of his videos. And then I've been kind of following him ever since. But his videos are very unique. They do not follow the normal patterns that you see in typical AMVs. The kind of stuff that we've been watching so far is totally different from what we're going to watch today. It uses the anime Angel's Egg, which is an older, I think it's from the 90s, an OVA from the 90s, or I guess a movie from the 90s, and mostly instrumental electronic piece by an artist called Jerry Folk. So I'm looking forward to this because it is very different, and it's not what you might expect. So a couple things to be on the lookout for as you watch this video. First of all, just be cognizant of the mood that is being built. It won't be hard, I promise. This is a very atmospheric video focused very strongly on the mood of the song and, well, of the source too, merging those two. It's you'll see almost from the outset exactly what I'm talking about. But be cognizant of that and how Elcalavero's editing plays into that. Second thing is it's a bit of a weird thing to ask you to look for, but try to see if you can point out or recognize how Elcalavero is showing restraint as he edits. This will become pretty clear, I think, as you watch the video, exactly what I mean. So I'll just leave it at that. If you somehow have already seen this video, I kind of doubt it if you have, but if you do know this video and you want to skip to the discussion, time code for the discussion is right there. Otherwise, let's watch this video together. This is Journey to Find a Name by Elcalavero, and then we will talk about what makes it great. All right, so let's watch this together and talk about it. Okay, so again, right off the bat, we're seeing something that we've been seeing pretty much since we started this series, right? The editor is establishing a visual rhythm. In this case, it's maybe not the rhythm you would think. There are some pretty obvious like chimes, kind of, that are going on that aren't being synced to, and yet the editor is still kind of, well, not kind of, he is syncing to a larger pattern. So if we go back, cut, 2, 3, 4, cut, 2, 3, 4. You see what I'm saying? So it's not, he's not maybe syncing to the most obvious beats here, but what this does is immediately it tunes you in as the viewer to this idea that, hey, this is probably not going to be a heavily synced video. Like if he wanted to establish that there was going to be a lot of sync and a lot of editing, actual cuts and stuff throughout the video, this would be a great place to do it. But instead, he's choosing to cut on every fourth beat, essentially, or every fourth chime, and let scenes linger for longer. So when I told you to talk, when I told you to say, or when I said look for where this editor is showing restraint in the video, immediately he's doing that, and this continues throughout the video. But so you can kind of see where this is coming from, and this slower sync pattern also sets up a mood. Like this is going to be a kind of dark, heavy-ish video. It's not going to necessarily leave you with good feelings. You can already kind of tell by the imagery and the content of the anime itself. But even the slower editing style tends to suggest that, especially when there are times when, there are beats or things that the editor could be syncing to, but he's not. This tells you that it's a conscious choice by the editor to build some sort of mood. And look at that. I mean, that scene stayed on screen for, how long was that? That was like, let's see, that was like 4 seconds? Yeah, about 4 seconds. That's a long time to go without cuts. In a video like this, it's not uncommon, and we're going to see a lot more scenes like this as we go along. But already, again, he's just emphasizing that idea that this is a slow video. This is something that you kind of need to just slow down and take in as it comes. And that opening scene, but this first kind of scene when the actual first beat drops is just really pretty. I just like it as a scene. I think it's an interestingly composed scene and I love the motion in it. It's giving this kind of airy quality to the video, kind of like a fantastical quality. It's suggesting that just through its content. Okay, so a couple things here. First of all, there's a crossfade there. It's the first one we've seen, which might surprise you because in slower songs, slower videos like this, crossfades kind of seem to be the more natural choice for how to transition from one scene to the next. So it's kind of interesting that so far he's been using hard cuts, and he actually uses them, I think, through most of this video, although I'm pretty sure there are some other points where he uses crossfades as well. But so first crossfade, to soft transition. What was the other thing I was going to say? Scatterbrain today. Oh, this part where there's that kind of that that sound that's kind of like that high pitched sound that's coming into the song, and as it's coming in, those lights are slowly turning on in whatever that structure is. I don't know. I've never seen this. This is the fourth video we've done, and I still haven't seen a single one of these sources yet. More to come like that, I'm sure. But let's watch this scene again. It's just there's not a whole lot. Most of this video is either super subtle internal sync or kind of sporadic external sync. So this is one of those few points where there's some pretty obvious internal sync, and obvious may be a little strong of a word. It is kind of subtle, but it just really works well. It kind of adds this mystery to the story. What is going on? What are these lights? What is this? Why are all these bones everywhere? And then you see these things light up, and it's like, is there life here? Is like you don't know what's going on. It just adds to the mystery of the whole thing. See, it's just so slow. It's edited. There's so much restraint there. You hear all these other interesting sounds and things in the music, all these, this interesting vocal line that's going on, and Elcalavero is just ignoring it all. This is risky. This is not something that you can just do. You kind of have to know what you're doing, or you kind of have to just be super loose with your editing and hope it matches up. But the restraint is an underrated quality in editors these days. I'm just going to say it. I think that you have so many opportunities in your standard song to sync to things, and even in a song like this, a slow song like this, there's all this other stuff that's going on that you are, I'm sure, tempted to sync to. Like, you would be tempted to sync to all this stuff if you were editing to this song. But like, I actually feel that in a lot of cases with videos like this, especially dark, slow videos, or I shouldn't say slow because that's the decision you're making. I should say dark, moody videos like this. The fewer the cuts and the longer those scenes stay on screen, the more effective it is, because it forces you to pay attention. It forces you to kind of drink in the scenery and just like immerse yourself in the world, which is especially important in this because it's just this really unique, interesting setting that gets shown throughout the video. And it's kind of one of, I would guess, one of Elcalavero's main, kind of the main thrust of this video for him is introducing you to this world and just helping you, like getting you to feel like you're inside of it with these two characters. See, like those beep 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 beep, like that, you would want to sync to that under normal circumstances if you were making a different type of video. And you might even be tempted to do that if you were trying to make something like this, like dark and moody. But I just don't think it would work. I think that this is much more effective, just because it allows you to really get into what's being shown on screen. And that long crossfades. Again, crossfades are kind of their own subject. I could talk about them forever. When to use them, when not to use them, etc. So I won't get too deep into that here. But just to be clear, a crossfade is when two scenes kind of bleed into one another, and there's no real effect added to it. A crossfade is just straight, you're overlaying two clips on the timeline and then fading them through one another, basically. So that's what we see here. And it's a long crossfade, which is, in my opinion, for a video like this, the longer the crossfade, the better. It really, again, adds to the mood. This video is all about atmosphere. It's all about creating a mood, and these kinds of techniques, I guess, or just this mindset of slowing things down and making things stay on screen as long as possible without being too long is really important. Now, what constitutes too long? It's a case-by-case basis. I don't have a good answer for that immediately. That is something that maybe we can discuss that more as the video goes on if we come across something that I can't. I don't know offhand if nothing is coming to mind as being on screen for too long in this video, but let's just keep watching and see. I love this part. So that's one of the few times here that Elcalavero does some sort of more rapid, I guess, syncing. This is mostly a very slow, methodical video, but here he's actually kind of he's syncing a little bit to the music. Let's just watch that again. So he's syncing to that backing vocal line, that oh. I'm sorry for my voice, but that's kind of what he's syncing to there, and it works really well. I'll explain why in just a moment. Let's just watch it one more time here. The reason I feel that this works is because of the scene itself. Like, it's the girl running at the camera, and it's creating some drama. So far we've seen a lot of scenery, and we saw a shot of that girl and then that guy earlier on, but not much else. It's all been kind of creating a setting and then setting the mood. There hasn't been too much actual story development. Now, this video is like loosely narrative. I would say it is definitely a narrative video. It's not something that I fully get because, again, I haven't seen the source, but I still do kind of get a sense of what is going on here. There's a journey involved. It's in the title, but you kind of get that sense as you watch the video anyway. But this scene right here with the girl running at the camera is a really good way to kind of start the story and kind of show some drama. It's very minimal. I mean, we don't know the context really, but we know that this girl is running. Something is happening that's causing her to run. That's kind of what flits through my mind anyway. And the way that it's synced to the vocal line, like I mentioned, is also really effective because up until now, we have seen just really slow cuts and fades, and it's been a very loosely synced video. But here is finally something we can kind of grab onto, and that helps us to focus in on, okay, there's some drama here. There's something is going on. Let's pay attention to what that is. Let's kind of take ourselves out of this like floaty mindset of just enjoying the scenery or getting ourselves immersed in the scenery, and let's just start to actually focus on the whatever drama is about to unfold. I just have to say, I love the art in this. This has nothing to do really with the editing at all. I just love the art of this anime. I've seen several videos that use it, and just the detail in this is astounding. That's neither here nor there, but I just wanted to point out I really love this scene. It's so like, it seems to be connected to, maybe the girl is looking out through the window and she's seeing all these suits of armor or whatever they are. Maybe that's not what's going on, but it's a really interesting, visually interesting scene. And actually, this is an important point. When you're making a video like this, it is something slow and kind of methodical. It is just as important to choose interesting scenes as it is to build the mood in other ways. So building the mood through interesting scene selection is a valid way to do it. And maybe that this scene that's coming up with all the suits of armor that I was pointing out, maybe it has no significance to the story. Maybe it has no significance to, maybe it's not connected at all to what this girl is looking at through the window. It doesn't really matter, because what we see is, or what it achieves is, it just, again, pulls us back into the world. If you're interested in the visuals you're seeing, you're going to be interested in the video. even if you don't like it, it can still be an interesting video to you. So that's what this scene here achieves. It's just this really pretty, detailed scene, and it's just like, I want to keep staring at this. I want to keep watching this simply because it's a good-looking scene. The editor's place in this is that he chose to put it here, and that's it. Obviously, there's no other editing here. It's nothing about the actual editing that's causing me to pay attention to this, other than his choice to put this scene in the AMV. So, something to keep in mind. That is also a really cool moment of sync. Some internal sync there with those lights being synced to that synth line. It's just so cool. And then right on that snare hit, it cuts to black. It's a little desynced. I think it would have been a little more effective if right on that cut, or right on that snare hit, it had dropped to black. It's close enough. It's enough to be noticeable, which it does bother me a little bit. But the idea is still a good one. In that, as soon as the music cuts out, there's nothing here, no sound really, and it's just black. It's a really effective way to kind of, again, bring your attention to whatever is about to happen. With videos like this, it's just so easy to get really kind of passively watch the video and just absorb it. But when stuff like that happens, it triggers this like active mental engagement. So yeah, let's actually watch that again. Yeah, audio keeps cutting out. And then that scene of her falling. Again, it's just, there's drama in this. We don't necessarily know what is going on. We don't know why she's falling, but the scene itself is dramatic. It's super dramatic, and so is the music is at this point too, because you had that cut to nothing, and then all of a sudden it kind of came back. That entire sequence is just like dramatic in itself, even without visuals. So there's like nothing going on except those little beeps, and you know that like it just feels like something is happening in the music, like behind the scenes almost. I love that flash too. Because that particular sound in the song, it kind of lingers. It's almost like an echo. So it hits and then it stays. And that flash has that same effect, right? So he adds some brightness or some glow to the scene and then fades it out. It's not just like a 2 or 3 frame effect, like it lingers for a little bit, and that really syncs up well with that kind of echoey percussive hit. Again, this is all building into the mood of the video. See, it fades out pretty fast, but it still is synced to that echoey sound. And again, it just gives the video this feeling of spaciousness, of like being in a big underground cavern or something. Which, the color scheme, the general darkness of the source material, and then that sound and that effect all contribute to this feeling of like, I don't really know the adjective I'm looking for here, but like this feeling of dark spaciousness. It's, yeah. And that's really cool too. Same kind of thing. He's instead of a flash though, it's a blur that he adds in right as that percussive thing hits. I don't know exactly what I would call it, like a woodblock sound almost. And the scene itself that he's using here with this guy is just, again, it's so mysterious. Like, who is this guy? What's he doing? It's all adding to this, like, you know, narrative is too strong a word. I don't think it's because I don't know what the story is. I can't tell based on this scene selection. I don't have any specifics, but still kind of getting at some broad stroke ideas of, you know, what is going on in the story. So you get that feeling even if you don't know necessarily the specifics. Also, I don't know if it probably wasn't intentional, but I did notice that, like, let's watch this again real quick. Notice when his hair blows up. Yeah, it's like right as the backing synth lines drop out, his hair kind of, it looks like he gets hit in the face with some wind and his hair blows back. That may have been intentional. It may have been completely accidental. I don't know, but either way, it's really cool. So this part of the video is actually one thing I kind of think he could have done better. I don't know how, like, specifically. Like, I don't know the anime well enough to say what scenes he could have chosen in place, for example. But the song is definitely suddenly changed, right? It's now kind of going from this kind of regular, you know, repeating motifs and things into a part that's all of a sudden it's building. You know, the tone is definitely changed. It's like these beeps are kind of like ascending. I get this sense that it's like building up to something. And the scene selection here doesn't really reflect that. This is one of the times where I think he was a little too loose with the editing. Some of these scenes, this is a good example. Some of these scenes I feel like go on for a little too long. And I think that this part could have been done a little better, could have been made a little more effective had he maybe done just a tad more editing, and maybe chose a few more scenes that maybe had a bit more motion or some more dynamic scenes somehow. I wouldn't want him to go too far off the rails with that. I would, you know, there's some kind of restraint that he would have to show in what scenes he chose and how he chose to edit them, because you don't want to undo everything you've done up to this point with all the, you know, the slow fades and just the general kind of vibe you've been building up. You can really easily undo that if you go too far in the other direction for this one part. But that said, I think he still could have done a little more here to kind of sync with this part of the song so that you kind of get into that building aspect of the song. So let's watch this sequence again. Too far, or not far enough. That first scene is good, I will say. The one where it's coming up like through this spiraling structure. That's a really good scene that goes really well with kind of the sound and the vibe of the song. You could have maybe sped that up a little bit. I doubt that scene from the anime would have been long enough to justify doing that entire scene for this entire part of the song. But that's a good scene to start with. I just wish he had kind of built on that, and this transition to this otherwise very static scene is it doesn't really work for me. It doesn't ruin the video or anything, but it's one of those things just like I feel like it could have been done better. I'll rewatch that real quick. Now, I just noticed this, and I think this was probably not intentional, but there almost sounds like there's kind of a hissing going on in the song at this time, which syncs up really well with these jets of air that are blowing out of the pipes. I don't think that was intentional. I can't see into the editor's brain, so I don't know, but it looks like that may just be a coincidental matchup, but it's really cool nonetheless. See that? That scene is really cool because we're getting to the end of this portion where it's been building and building, and the way her head moves, it's like it's dramatic, and finally at this point it does kind of feel like Elcalavero is starting to tap into the inherent drama of this part of the song a little bit with that scene. And it's right on the snare as well, which is some neat, subtle internal sync as well. You see, here we're starting to see some actual action go with this part of the song, which is kind of what I wish had been going on this entire time. Stuff like this, just it actually feels dramatic and it feels like it's building. It's just a shame that that only comes in the last third or quarter of that whole section. And then this scene here is really cool too. So actually, let's go back. Let's just watch that part again. I love this scene. Okay, I love this scene. It's just so eerie almost. It's just weird and slightly disturbing the way she tilts her head. It's a really interesting juxtaposition given the scenes we just came from, because we're getting all this like action. I use action very loosely here, but all this drama and kind of borderline actiony scenes that came just before this, and then we're getting to this part where she's just smiling and she tilts her head, and it's just kind of creepy. It's a really good it's just a really effective way to bring back the mood to kind of what it was originally. Oh, so good. He missed a bit of an opportunity there with that echoey percussive hit again. It's not a huge deal, but he paid attention to the last two where that happened, and then he kind of just ignored that one. I don't want to necessarily say it hurts the video, but I can't help but feel like we were talking about motifs in the first video of this series for Vamped. I feel like that would have been a cool motif to follow up on there, and I don't know if he does it throughout the rest of the video, but that would have been that would have been a good place to do something like that. But he kind of ignored it there, which is too bad. So let's see what I'm talking about here. Right there. So we're back now to him cutting on these, every fourth beat, or I don't know exactly how you want to say it, but you know what I mean. Like there are these synth lines that it's fading in and out that he could be syncing to, but he's not. So again, restraint is huge in this video, maybe to a fault, as we've already kind of seen. But let's just keep watching. And I love this scene too because it's she's underwater and it's just like this. The song kind of almost has this underwater aqueous quality to it, and it just it works really well with this particular visual. So we're getting near the end of the video here, and that scene, again, it's all about building this fantastic mood, like this mysterious, vaguely horror-ish kind of thing. Like, it's not quite horror, but there's just this darkness that's like right on the edges of this thing, and I love it. I love like when videos are able to pull that off. It's to me, that's like a really tough thing to do well, and this is a video that does it really well. Again, this kind of harkens back to what I was talking about with that scene with the suits of armor. Here, the story is super vague. It's open to interpretation. It's not entirely clear just by watching this video exactly what's going on. You can maybe make some assumptions based on the name of the title of the video and maybe some of the scenes you see. But these last few scenes are just choosing really visually interesting scenes that build into the mood of the video, and not overcrowding the video with too many cuts or any effects or anything like that. It's just letting you soak in the mood, soak in the atmosphere, while the editor just takes his time and holds back on putting his hand in it too much. So watch this last part one more time. Such pretty scenes. I'm just so interested in it from a visual perspective, you know what I mean? So that is Journey to Find a Name by Elcalavero. Like I said, it's a very different type of video. It's not the type of video that most people set out to make, because it is just so slow, and people typically don't set out to make slow videos. They're not the kind that catch your eye. They're not the kind that, it can be really hard to do it well and make people want to sit through an entire thing. Now, this one is pretty short. It's only like 2.5 minutes. So that kind of makes it a little easier, I think, to edit something like this and to watch something like this. But I still think it's just a really fantastic example of restraint in editing and how to build a really tangible mood. Like, you can just feel this video, like you can almost touch it. It's so heavy and so atmospheric. So hopefully you kind of take away from this that cutting on every beat isn't always necessary. It tends to be easier to do when you're working with a song like this. You know what I mean? Like, this is a song that there are no real vocals. There's some vocal sounds, but they're not singing anything intelligible. And so it's probably a little easier to get away with some of the slower editing with a song like this. Honestly, it's something that comes with practice, and again, it just comes with watching a lot of videos of this type and figuring out, what works and what doesn't. So if you do ever feel like you want to make a video like this, just remember, restraint is key. Restraint is key. You have to resist the temptation to do too many cuts, too many crossfades, too much editing in general. Editing in this case was much less about the actual cuts and much more about your decision not to cut, which sounds counterintuitive, but there you have it. So that was Journey to Find a Name by Elcalavero. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you took something out of it. And I hope you'll join me next time on What Makes It Great. See you later.